All right, welcome to Extension Connection. We kind of have a different surprise. We'll call it a surprise. Today, you're joined by Amelia Doll, 4-H Youth Development Agent in Burleigh County. And then we have
Liz Larson, and I'm the parent educator, and I cover the Region 7. I'm based in Morton County, but I jump on both sides of the river.
Right, but you just don't ever come on our radio show.
I know.
It's so exciting to have you here.
It's like I'm a special guest, but
You are.
last week I was just a normal person, right?
You're never just normal, Liz.
Oh, thank you, thank
like
you.
we have the
Yeah.
Extension All-Stars in today.
I don't
Yeah,
know if I would say all-stars, but we're here.
We're here. We've braved the snow,
Yeah,
the cold.
and hope you guys are staying warm out there. And that's kind of what we're going to talk a little bit about today is winter decided to come.
Yes.
Like this weekend.
Boom. December hit. We're in it.
What the heck? Like this weekend I was outside working in my yard with a sweatshirt on. And then the next day I wake up and there's ice and snow and we're back to
Weather
that.
advisories and
Yeah.
people unsure how to drive on the road.
I never understand how every year
It's a surprise
people
for everybody.
forget, like, oh my gosh, it snowed again. It happened. Like, we live in North Dakota. We're not in Texas. But with that comes a decrease in the opportunity to tell your kids, go outside and play.
outside, yeah.
Like, you're getting on my nerves. You need to go outside and play. Go play in the sandbox because our sandbox is covered in snow right now. So we're going to talk a little bit
There's
about...
not quite enough snow for like building snowmen.
And it's not good snowman snow.
No.
It's not
Not
sticky.
there yet.
It's icy and yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about some things to do with kids since they are cooped up inside and just some reminders and helpful tips on learning in the wintertime. We have Christmas break coming up, the holiday winter break, and it's
All those hours with your kids at home.
right. And I've already heard many complaints like our Christmas break is really short this year. I haven't heard any parents saying, our Christmas break is really short this year. But there's really just a week and 2 days for Bismarck anyway, that they're off school and then they're back. So there's still opportunities for learning. But we're talking about learning in the wintertime. It's for everybody, right? Like it's not just elementary kids we talk about or middle school kids. So what are some helpful tips you have for us?
So adding any activity can be a learning activity, right? So it's super simple. I mean, you can go grocery shopping and throw in talks about colors and numbers and letters and, counting or
Reading nutrition
finding
labels?
things, reading nutrition labels. Yeah, depending on how old your kids are, there's always something to do, if your kids are a little older, talking about prices and doing math skills, all sorts of opportunities, right?
Yeah, my 6-year-old recently, I don't know where he got this, but he's been like obsessed with how much sugar is in things. Like a great thing, but we're reading nutrition labels of everything. Like he was deciding what snacks to get when we went to Sam's Club, to take to his class and for after school program. And he's like, Mom, which one has the most sugar? Which one?
Well, that's good. Cool.
I know it's good, but you don't think about a 6-year-old reading a nutrition label. So don't knock it till you're like, hey, look at this. What's this number here? Like even if they can say the number, it's good math skills.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yep. For those little ones, so I know I work with parents of kids of all ages, right? So the toddlers and preschoolers, they obviously like physical movement, right? So you can even set up a simple obstacle course if you have a living room or a family room. Put away some breakables, but, get the pillows out, the cushions off the couches, and designate it as a time to do an obstacle course. They can climb under chairs or around things or... And a lot of kids have like pop-up tents and tunnels and that kind of stuff.
I've seen it where you use a hallway and you use blue painter's tape and then you crisscross it, and so it's like the lasers of
get through them.
Yeah, and kids think it's awesome. And they'll spend hours doing it, and it costs you like half a roll of painter's tape.
Right,
it's pretty
exactly. Cheap. Yeah. One, how imaginative they can get with everything, and getting creative, all that kind of stuff. So, if you want to make up a story that goes with the course, for the younger ones, they might, you can even have a song that you make up. You sing what's the over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house. Like you can make up your own rendition.
Or going on a bear hunt.
Going on a bear hunt. There's that great book, We're Going on a Bear Hunt.
I'm not scared.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
we
a
can't
camp
go
song.
over it. We can't go under it. We
have
gotta
to
go through it.
And kids
Right.
come up with some pretty imaginative things when you're
Mm-hmm.
like, what's up ahead? And they're like, a turtle. You're like, oh.
That's frightening,
Okay.
maybe.
Can't go over it. Can't go under it. I'll have to go through it. Like, and kids think it's hilarious.
Yes.
And as I challenge you as a parent not to laugh,
Right.
like you're going to laugh.
Well, and just think if you're in there in the thick of the obstacle course with them, it could be interesting. Also, you might not have to pay for a gym membership. You just get your obstacle course time in every day.
Yes.
Yes.
Yoga is also a really good thing. My youngest son loves to hang upside down.
Yes.
He has a sensory processing disorder, so hanging upside down is one of his calming things. And yoga is a great way to, quote, socially acceptably hang upside down for a little bit. And kids love yoga, and
They do.
do it with them because, like you said, you don't have to pay for a gym membership.
Right, exactly. Well, and you can get a book or something to figure out some of the basic movements, so that you're not hurting yourself, by doing a movement that's going to hurt yourself. But there's also lots of good things on YouTube.
Yep.
Can't remember, but there's one woman, I think she's Australian, and she does yoga, like a 20-minute clip, and a friend of mine does it with their kids like every day almost, and they love it. And she does it to a story. So she has a story, and then they get in mountain pose, and then they have to lay down and get into different poses, and they love it, and they are learning so much about that mind-body connection because they can kind of imitate what they're seeing and then all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, we actually, 4-H has yoga. If you Google 4-H yoga, it's from Arkansas and Louisiana, I believe. They did a cooperative thing, and they have the videos. If you're a 4-H leader out there listening, you can do the 4-H pledge with the yoga poses.
Oh,
and they have
interesting.
videos on YouTube you can follow. So there's a lot of great resources that don't cost anything.
Right.
I think a lot of times, especially in the north, when it gets to be wintertime, we think about what activities can we do inside, and inside usually costs money.
Movies, and buying things and going to different activities. Yeah.
So we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk a little more about some learning opportunities for kids now that it's cold out.
The Red River Farm Network. Ag News is here on SuperTalk 1270.
All right, welcome back to the Extension Connection. You are joined today by Amelia and Liz. And before the break, we were talking about winter being a good time for learning and some different activities you can do to help your kids learn in the wintertime. We touched a little bit about toddlers.
Yes.
Anything else to add for toddlers?
Well, I was going to say kind of moving into the elementary. So they also need physical activity, right? That's why those kids still go out for recess. And so when you're on break or at home over the weekends, make sure they still go outside, even if it's just a short amount of time.
Send them out for recess.
Yeah, exactly. Home recess, right? We'll call it that. And everybody needs to have something, right? Because even the change in temperature and the amount of energy it takes to get dressed, to get outside, do some playing, come back, that in itself can also burn some of that energy and give them.
Well, and it's teaching good life skills. Like, we don't necessarily think about zipping up our coats or buttoning things, but that is a really both a good life skill as well as good coordination and fine motor movements. And so let your kids do as much as possible, even if it takes them 20 minutes to put their boots on.
Right.
They can
Why
do it.
rush?
Do it.
If you have time, right?
You just do that.
Yep. They start that a little earlier. And then those elementary age kids are also great. I mean, with the yoga, that would be a great thing for them to do as well. Actually, of all age, middle school, high school, whatever kids, if you can get your adults, right? Like get your breathing and whatever else in. As far as middle school students, they really enjoy things at this age of looking back at your life. So if you're a parent or a grandparent, maybe you have your kids are hanging out at grandma and grandpa's or somebody else's over winter break, pull out the photo albums. So look at physical pictures for one, right? So that'll be different for them because they're used to everything online or on the phone. But tell them stories and interacting and practicing those conversation skills, all that kind of thing.
Well, and that also creates bonds that if there is a difficult situation that they need to talk to you about, they're going to feel more comfortable about talking to you. I have, I think I've talked about this a little on the radio before, but my 18-year-old niece also lives with us. So I have my almost 4-year-old, my 6-year-old, and then I call her my niece daughter. She's 18. And you need to make sure you're talking to those kids when there's nothing earth-shattering happening, because when there are earth-shattering things happening, they're more likely to come to you and confide in you and feel like you're an approachable person.
Exactly. Well, and if they have had those conversations or stories, or even just, the stories that we don't think to tell kids of embarrassing moments or awkward phases we went through or mistakes we made, right? Those kinds of things can come out through photos. Like, oh, that was the summer that I chopped my hair off and it looked terrible. And you can kind of have a bonding moment over, like, we've all been there, right? We've all had a terrible haircut. Or
I remember growing up, my mom, she was wearing a hat in all of her senior pictures. And I was like, Mom, why did you wear a hat? Because it just kind of looked goofy. And she was a senior when perms first came out.
Oh, boy.
And she has very fine hair. And she got a perm. And they overdid it. And all of her hair broke and fell out. She had like an inch of hair. And so that's why she wore a hat in all of her senior pictures. And I just remember, like, thinking, my gosh, if my mom could pull off a hat in senior pictures, no matter what I wear in my senior pictures, at least I won't be wearing a hat.
Yeah, exactly. At least I have a couple inches of hair.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. And so what great opportunity to connect and bond, like you said.
And then who knows, in 20 years, they'll be on the radio telling your embarrassing story.
Exactly.
Right?
Hope she's listening today, right? We'll have to record this one and send it out to Mom.
She's teaching high school right now, so in Montana. Good. So she's likelihood of not listening.
Yes, yeah. Let's see. And then another key point to remember is be the reader you want your kids to be. So we encourage kids to be reading. When it's cold outside, it's a great opportunity to get a new series from the library or, something like that, and read when they're reading. We always think, I don't have time to pick up a book or this or that. Be a good model, right? And encourage them. Or you could read books as family members together. If your kids are middle school and high school, they definitely can read aloud and be practice, or obviously the younger ones too. But I've heard a lot of ideas of, take a break from the screen time and read a chapter a day or something. And
physical book.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Not on your phone. Facebook doesn't count as reading.
Yeah, and if your kids are really into movies or something, read a book and, take the whole break, and then maybe at the end of the break you go rent that movie.
Right.
Or find it online or whatever, because you can only rent so many places now.
Redbox.
Yes.
That's about it, right?
Exactly. Video Action or whatever it is. So try to do that, and that's also if you're going to be traveling over the holidays, that's a great time, way to pass the time in the vehicle. I know Vanessa from our office was saying that's what they did when her kids were little, and it gave them a common conversation point when they stopped for meals on the road or, just in the car. That's a good idea. Yeah, it was kind of like, remember that part of the book, or when they had to get back in the car, it wasn't like, we have to get back in. It was, we get to read another chapter, see what happens next, that kind of thing.
I may have to do that. We drive out to Montana for Christmas, and so it's like 10 hours in the car at minimum. So I might have to go find a good book.
Yes, or a series of some kind.
Yes. We've done audiobooks.
Yeah, which is fun.
But I don't think the kids enjoy that as much as like seeing. I mean, there's still something to be said about having a book.
Exactly. So lots of opportunities for that. Same with those high school age kids. Talk about what you're reading. Try to see what they're interested in or reading, even if they're just reading stuff online. What kind of blogs they're reading or posts or that kind of stuff.
Get caught up on the latest BuzzFeed article.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes those kids surprise you. You start talking about it and they fell into some actual news, right? And they are aware of some things going on in the world and having conversations about that, right?
We just had one of those conversations. My Chelsea had a bunch of friends over, and they were talking about GMOs. And so it was a prime opportunity to be like, okay, hold the phone. Like, where's your research from?
Right, credible sources here.
And it was funny because one of her friends is like, well, just because you found one source that says that doesn't mean they all say that. And so they knew about
Yeah.
credible sources. And then on the flip side, I was like, all right, so some of them are good. Chelsea needs to work on her research abilities.
Yeah. Now we know that, right?
Right.
Skill to build this
Yes.
winter or something. Yeah. So lots of opportunities for learning throughout the winter, being inside. Yeah, I think it's fun. Don't just plop down in front of the TV
No,
every
and
night,
that's-
right? There's lots of other ways.
Yeah, and it's like we go out to my parents' house this year for Christmas, and they live out in the middle of nowhere. Like, my parents don't even have internet. Like, they have a hotspot that you have to turn on that uses your cell phone data. So it's nice to have that disconnect. So even if you're, if you have older kids or even younger kids who have tablets, have designated time that's like technology free. So put those down, put a board game on the table. I'm a huge proponent of board games. And it never occurred to me, but a lot of people aren't aware of cooperative board games. Have you ever played cooperative board games?
I don't know the term very
Like
well.
everybody wins or everybody loses. You're on a team.
Oh.
And so they make them for all ages of kids. And those are great because it's teaching the skills of taking turns and playing, but it's not so much focused on that competitive aspect because kids, younger and younger, they're doing sports, which the physical activity is great, but it's ingrained into so many kids that they have to win, and if they don't win, they're going to be And so providing opportunities for them to still learn those skills, but not necessarily win or lose is great. And what better
One, team building, right?
Yes.
It's like, having to work with your sibling that you just were fighting with them, how many minutes ago, but to be able to beat the game or work together to win or whatever it is.
So great Christmas present. And we weren't really planning on talking about Christmas presents, but cooperative games. And if you need suggestions on board games, give me a call at my office.
Yeah.
I will talk board
about
games.
Board games.
Yeah. But they're like Outfoxed is one that comes to mind that's great for that preschool, elementary age. And you are investigator. You're actually playing little chickens that are investigating to try and catch the fox that stole Miss Pinkerton's pie. And so you're going around and you're getting clues and you're collecting evidence to try and find the fox that stole Miss Pinkerton's pie. Or Glibba Glibba. It's a German game, but there's no German in it, so you don't have to know German. I think...
But you might get Grandma and Grandpa interested.
Right. I think the English name is Ghost Blasters, but it's kind of like Ghostbusters, the board game, where you're moving around and it's a matching game, but you can only be on certain pieces. And so you got to find the matches and blast them with the slime. And so it's a cooperative game. Everybody gets their own turn, but you have to work together and you have to be paying attention because if you just turned over a certain ghost and I wasn't paying attention, then the time ticks down and you can lose. But everybody loses.
Slimed or something.
Yeah. So there's a lot of really cool games. And as your kids get older, don't be afraid to play some of those quote-unquote strategy games. Strategy games are becoming more and more accessible and great opportunities to sit down with each other without devices. And you may be playing a game, but really your conversation isn't even related to the game. And that's a good way to kind of bring the family together.
Exactly.
So another great thing to do in the wintertime, make some hot cocoa, sit down, play a board game.
Yep. Maybe you have to play a couple rounds.
Right.
You have to see if you can do better the next time or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and those are, like you said, the great Christmas gifts. If you're looking for something that won't just, you give it to your kid and then you don't see him for 5 hours.
Right.
There might be one or two of those, but mixing it up.
Give it to the family
game. Yeah, exactly.
So we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk a little more about fun stuff to do in the wintertime.
Right now it's 16.
On Twitter, Facebook, online, and YouTube. SuperTalk1270.com.
All right, welcome back to the Extension Connection. You are joined today by Amelia and Liz from Burleigh Morton area.
Yeah, we're just regional today.
Right. We are the area extension. Before the last few segments, we've been talking about some fun things to do with your kids that they may be learning and not even realizing it, which is the best kind of learning. We talked a little bit about some board games, and during the break, Liz and I were talking about cooperative games. And just for kids, cooperative games aren't just for kids. There are adult cooperative games, and I know some people still think board games are nerdy, and they're like, oh, yeah, we play Monopoly and Sorry. There's a whole culture around board games and things that are way better than Monopoly and Sorry. I don't know about when you were growing up, but Monopoly in my house was like a cuss word. It always resulted in somebody getting mad. And I was the older sibling, and I will fully admit that I was really good at changing the rules, so my brother would always lose.
Oh, my brother is 4 years older than me, and the deals he struck with me. Oh, Let me tell you, I didn't know till the end of the game. It wasn't good.
Yeah.
But I fell for him every time.
I was that person to my younger brother because we were 4 years apart. And my mom finally, one time she heard me like, oh, Casey, here you get $10,000. Here's 12 500s.
Yeah.
You know, like, and my mom's like, that's not how this works. But he got more. And so there were games that were no longer allowed to be played until we got older.
Banned.
And I realized that I couldn't cheat my brother out of winning.
So why not use those skills and and the smarts that we have of kids manipulating each other together? They can work
together. And then as they get older, it also gives them an opportunity to think that they don't always have to win. Our 6-year-old loves to play games, and the discussion we always have is, if there's 5 people sitting around a table and playing board games, how many winners are there? There's usually one winner and 4 people who didn't win. And do you think the 4 people who didn't win will come back if it wasn't fun? And so we play board games to have fun. It's an added bonus if every once in a while you get to win. But those cooperative games, like everybody wins or everybody loses. And so it's a good team building, etc. So some other things that you can do to kind of pass the time this winter, and it just feels like it's going to be a cold winter. I'm not a meteorologist. I know nothing about future forecasting.
Just in your Midwestern bones.
I just feel like, oh man, this winter, like, we're going to be frigid. And maybe it was because we went from 50 to like 2 overnight. But it's going to be cold, so you probably will be spending some time indoors. Although this time last year we had a snow day. We had so much snow.
I'm sure there's kids hoping every day that this week.
Some people in Fargo had snow days on Monday. So some fun things to do. You know, you talked about building a obstacle course. Build a fort and then have your book reading time in the fort. I don't know what it is. Like, books are always better when they're read by a flashlight in a fort, right? Like,
snuggled in. Smaller space.
Yeah,
somehow.
like, just, it's cozy. You talked about going to the library. Turn on the tunes and have a dance off. My kids love to dance, and we have Google Home in our kitchen, and so William can say, hey, he calls it Doodle. Hey, Doodle, play, and then his favorite song's Uptown Funk, he like has the moves down. And make sure you get the recorder out and snap some, because
those are memories you want forever.
They will be seniors in high school at some point. They will probably be married at some point, and you got to have some good ammunition.
Yep, exactly.
Make a list of summer vacations you'd like to consider. So dream of places warmer. If you have a bunch of magazines lying around, have them cut out what their ideal vacation is.
Ooh.
Take out last year's Halloween costumes and make up family skits. Like, if you have superhero costumes lying around or firefighters, and let the kids do it. They're way more creative than adults.
I know. We're so limited sometimes in our thinking.
Well, and adults, that's part of the work I do in Extension with our innovation team, is adults always are trying to think based on restrictions. Like, think like a kindergartner. You don't know what $1 is, right? Like, my son got $1 from the Tooth Fairy last night, and he was stoked. You know, so he's gonna
buy everything, and
it went right into his piggy bank. It was so exciting. The Tooth Fairy had sneezed glitter all over it, and so he's like, Mom, how was this glitter stuck to the dollar bill? And he's like, it looks like it's glued. And I said, no, that's snot. And he was like, ugh. So give manicures to each other. Have a spa day.
Oh, there you go.
Let your kids pick out the colors that they paint, and let them paint your toenails, because how fun.
And it's winter. Nobody's going to see it.
Right.
If the colors are all funky on your toes.
And if you have more paint on your skin than your toenails, it doesn't matter. One of my favorite things to do when we were growing up was to go around caroling. My dad was a firefighter, and so we all piled on the back of the fire truck and we drove around the town caroling, to go caroling. Or I've seen people make some hot cocoa and like travel mugs and then get in the car and drive around and look at Christmas lights.
Yes.
From the warmth of your car, those Christmas lights look great.
Yep.
And there's a few houses that you can get out and look at. And I encourage you to do that because the look of awe on those kids' faces when they see that is pretty great. Turn off all the lights and play laser tag, like give everybody flashlight tag. We do this at camp, right?
Yep.
You can play flashlight tag, and you can do it in your house. Make sure you have off-limit things.
Right.
Visit local humane society, volunteering. This time of year, everybody thinks about volunteering, right? And so there's a lot of places that we can do volunteering, and it shows kids from an early age, regardless of how old your kids are, that giving back is important and being civically active and civically engaged. So whether you're at the Humane Society or you're at the food bank or you're go to a senior center, a lot of our 4-H clubs go to senior assisted living homes and decorate cookies or help wrap presents. Those are fun projects, and the kids, again, don't realize how big of an impact it is. Like they think they're just having fun.
Right.
So,
well, and sometimes they learn those life skills we were talking about. If they're at the food bank, sorting food or stocking stuff. And I mean, they're engaged with it versus just showing up to the dinner table, right? So they're kind of building those life skills along the way too.
Exactly. And as we're out this winter, if you brave going outside, there are some important things to keep in mind when we're talking about our kids, especially if they're still in car seats, being in the car.
Yes.
And
I brought along, I've partnered some with the Safe Kids organization. And so I have a bunch of these little flyers. They're really easy to look at, and they show you pictures. And it basically is like, yes, this is good. No, this isn't, for both infants and toddlers. And we know that kids are in car seats much older than they used to be. So being aware of all that kind of stuff. So it's things like, I know this seems counterintuitive, but taking the coat off of kids. So if you have the little ones in the infant carrier still, you can just bundle them up around them, put in those blankets, put hat and mittens on. That keeps kids very warm. But avoiding that coat or using a very light coat. So like maybe a fleece or something that still is an extra layer. But not a big, thin, bulky coat.
You want it to be thin, not those cute puffy coats. Yep. Those are great for recess and playing outside.
But terrible for car seats.
Don't put them in the car seat.
Because that fluff or the bulky winter coat or snowsuit will end up kind of compressing if you were to get in an accident, which we know is more likely. I think there was like 40 or 50 accidents in a 24-hour period in our counties when this first snow hit. And a lot of that is getting rear-ended, that kind of stuff. But that little half-inch or inch that you can't see of fluff will compress down, and then that's just space that your kids are going to jostle through. The straps aren't as tight as they need to be. So if you're using any of those car seat liners, make sure you're not using one that goes under the child because they can kind of bulk up and also create space where it shouldn't be between the kid and the car seat and the straps and all that kind of stuff.
And they shift around.
They shift around more. Yep, exactly. So if you want to do like the over-the-top one, that kind of has a little peephole for their face, those are fine because you're not actually affecting the straps and how your kids are.
And it's keeping them. I mean, it's pretty warm in there.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So, and if you're doing that with safety, make sure you're opening it up or taking it off when you're going in and out because they can actually overheat. Right. And they kind of get all insulated.
It's like a nice little tent that you're reading your book in, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Nice
it gets real hot.
Yeah.
They're breathing in there, whatever. So a lot of the same things for the older kids. So avoiding that coat or fluffy jackets. If they still are cold or something, one trick you can do, wrap them in a blanket when you're hauling them to the car or something like that. Or when they get in there, take it off and then flip it around so their arms still go through the jacket, but it's just on backwards and the straps are underneath directly on them.
We have car blankets. And they stay in the car. And one of my sons is in a booster seat, so he uses the seatbelt. But my youngest is still in the 5-point harness. And he's always like, Mom, I'm old. Because I make him take his coat off. And so they're fleece blankets and tug him around. And I think he's probably the most comfortable one of us all in the car.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And then you can take it off if you're in there for a while. You don't have to be like, now they're in their jacket, they're getting hot, but you don't want to pull over to take the jacket off, right? They can kind of manage their own temperature as they get older. So with that, though, the public health offices in both counties, they kind of do these car seat checkups.
Yep.
So I know I was just glancing. I have it posted in my office, and there's still a couple more coming up in January and February. So if you have car seat questions, or, you know, you're not sure how to install it, maybe you have a new baby coming on the way, or if you have a child that's moving between car seats, boosters, that kind of thing. I know there's lots of events throughout the year, but just to remember to call your public health office. They usually have someone on staff that can help with those. But yeah, maybe I'll try to post a picture of the winter coat car seat reminders, because it's a big thing. And again, it's kind of counterintuitive. You're trying to be the best parent, have them dressed, right? You don't want to be that parent hauling in a kid with no coat on to daycare, but try to come up with other ways.
Well, and in addition to the puffy coat, one thing I see a lot is the chest clip. Like, people think it is belly clip, but it's called the chest clip for a reason. And so making sure that's nice and high on their chest, because if, heaven forbid, you get in an accident, you want to make sure that they're the safest possible.
Exactly. You always say you don't want to push their guts out, so keep it where that strong bone is, up on the chest.
Yes.
So a couple other things with safety and being outside. Obviously, making sure kids are wearing warm enough clothing when they're going out to play. Have them come in every so often. You can check them, because a lot of times kids aren't aware of their body temperature. I mean, how many of us swam in the freezing cold lakes in early June, and you have to kind of regulate their body temperature for them because they don't have it down yet. Well,
and they don't have the body fluff.
I
call it.
Right, they don't have. But lots of other safe, if they're doing winter sports, making sure they're wearing helmets, that kind of. Snow is not a protection of everything. Right. So
we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll come back with our last segment about winter.
Right now it's 16.
News and Views with Joel Heitkamp. Weekdays on SuperTalk 1270.
All right, welcome back to the Extension Connection. Before the break, we were talking a little bit about car seat safety, winter safety. So what other kind of safety tips do you have for us, Liz?
Yes, so I mentioned just briefly, when kids are doing winter sports, right? So if they're skiing, snowboarding, ice hockey, all that kind of stuff, make sure they have proper gear, right? Like a bike helmet is not proper for ice hockey, right? Because they're going to hit the ice differently and all that kind of stuff. Also, making sure they stay hydrated, even, we feel the cold almost, and we forget that we're still sweating and need to kind of hydrate, that kind of stuff. Even sunscreen, considering using sunscreen in the winter, I know that also seems crazy, right?
But the sun is bad.
Yep, and the reflection off the snow and that kind of stuff, especially if you're skiing out there for a long time.
Well, and again, you don't realize, when we're in the summer, we realize we're getting warm, but in the wintertime, you're not getting warm, and you come in and you have raccoon eyes from your sunglasses.
Yes, exactly. Well, and sometimes the wind, we think the burn or any of that skin feeling is actually just the wind, but really it's kind of the sun and the wind combined. So, yeah, lots of kind of things to remember in terms of safety and all of that kind of stuff for kids in the winter.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit at the beginning about reading with your kids, and I have a list of books that are winter books for kids kindergarten through second grade to kind of promote that learning. If you're ever looking for books around a specific topic, there's a website called Books That Heal Kids, and it's written by a counselor, and she reviews a lot of books about I've seen things on there for bullying and divorce, and so again, another great resource for you. But if you're looking for winter-themed books, Magic School Bus, Lost in the Snow. Can you go wrong with Magic School Bus?
It's so great. I have a nephew that's gotten into Magic School Bus. I'm loving it. Yeah. I love reading them to him.
Magic School Bus is the bomb. Young Cam Jansen is another popular kids book for kindergartners. There's one called And the Ice Skate Mystery. Curious George, A Winter's Nap. Especially for the younger kids, Curious George is a great book. Today in the office, we were talking about pout-pout fish.
Oh,
you heard about pout-pout fish? Chandra, one of our agents in the office, they recently got that book. And there's actually a Christmas version of it.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so if you're into pout-pout fish books, they're great. And they're really good for younger kids. My son, who has apraxia, Pout Pout was actually recommended because of the repetitive sounds and the repetitive words. So if you are working on that language development with kids, that's why kids want to read the same book 30,000 times.
Yes.
And do
repetition.
it. The repetition is so important for kids. But if it's already worked into the book, it makes your job a little easier, right?
Yes.
See how many times you can say pout pout and not laugh, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's why a lot of them also rhyme. So they're hearing those similar sounding words, that kind of stuff.
And if you have first and second grade readers, Nate the Great and the Snowy Trail, Nancy Drew. Did you read Nancy Drew growing up?
Little bit, not too much, but
Nancy Drew's classic.
Classic.
The Clue Crew number 5 is The Case of the Sneaky Snowman.
Ooh.
So that sounds sneaky and fun. Magic Treehouse, number 32, Winter of the Ice Wizard. Magic Treehouse is another one of those great series for kids. They have a ton, and there's some that relate to pretty much anything.
Yeah.
So grab a book, build a tent, make winter break fun. Before we wrap up our show, I just wanted to do a little program plug for a project day we have coming up January 13th from 1 to 4 p.m. over at the Burleigh County 4-H building over by Buckstop Junction and Game and Fish. We have a quadcopter project day. And so before we started our show, I was talking to Liz. I'm like, I'm going to promote our quadcopter project day. She's like,
what is that?
Right.
Like, if anyone's listened to me on the radio station, I've learned a lot working at Extension.
I think Extension's a lot like kindergarten. You learn something new every day, even if you don't want to. Right,
exactly. So if you're asking, what is a quadcopter?
Yeah, so a quadcopter is, a lot of times people refer to them as drones, but the big difference is a quadcopter has 4 helicopter propellers. You'll see them a lot. They're really big. The ones that the kids will be making fit in the palm of your hand. And we have some engineers coming in to work with the kids, so they'll learn about circuits, completing a circuit, how to solder. All the bases are 3D printed, and so we'll have the 3D printers there so they can see how those work. It's going to be a great project day. And as the holidays are coming up, you can actually purchase a voucher and give it to a kid for a Christmas present.
Oh, how cool to come to the event.
So it's open to kids 10 and older. There's no need to be a 4-H member. There's information on signing up on our Burleigh County 4-H Burleigh County Extension Facebook page. There's a link. Space is limited. We don't want to have too many kids with soldering irons. But
safety first.
Right, safety first. But at the end of the class, every kid will walk out with a completed quadcopter that they can fly, a soldering iron, and then we're going to do a project that's like practice soldering, and so they'll have that too. So a lot of really great learning, and they get to talk to engineers. And I'm a little biased because I'm married to one of the engineers, but they're pretty cool people. And a lot of times people think of them as, oh, you sit behind a computer all day and punch numbers, but they get to do pretty cool stuff. And so this is an opportunity for kids. And like I said, you don't have to be in 4-H, but this is an opportunity that you can do in 4-H. And this project day all came about because I had a 4-H member make one for Achievement Days. So like our county fair in Burleigh County. Yep. And I was like, Sten, how did you make that? And so he actually taught me how to make it. And then I was like, I know people better at this than I am. So I recruited some engineers, and it's going to be great. The space is limited, so register, payment holds your spot. Get it as a Christmas gift.
I think that's a great idea.
I don't know any 11-year-old that wouldn't be like, heck yeah, I get to make a quadcopter. So you have any programs coming up, Liz?
Yeah, well, I just released the winter newsletter for our parenting tips and times. So if you don't have that, you can get it by email or mail, but you can give us a call at the office, and I have some tips on, speaking of Christmas ideas and gifts, I have some tips on buying something other than toys or without batteries, right? Those kinds of things. So if you're still struggling on how to or what to buy for kids in your life, we have some tips in the newsletter there, as well as we'll do a series of building strong families later this winter, and then also offering class of Parents Forever. So that's a class for any parents that are now parenting separately. Maybe they're going through a separation or divorce, that kind of thing. So if you're kind of thinking, how are we going to survive the holidays after this family transition, that can be a tool and a resource. So if you want to kind of subscribe, I guess, to our newsletter. We don't send out anything but the newsletter, so you won't get spam. But you can email me. It's just liz.larson@ndsu.edu and say, I want it by mail or email, however you want it. And we can get that to you, get you on the list.
And if you have any questions about anything either Liz or I talked about today, I'm over in the Burleigh County office and can be reached at 221-6865. And Liz is in the Morton County office.
Yes, and you can call us at 667-3340.
So, if you have questions about anything, want to register for a class, get on Liz's mailer for the newsletter, give us a call. We love to hear from you. And also let us know what you need. Our job is to make sure we're serving the community. So we don't know what the community needs unless they're talking to us. So thanks again for tuning in, and we will be back. Morton County will be back next week. You get like a 3 week in a row.
I know. So if you want an idea, give us a call.
Yeah. Have a great week, everyone.